Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. In this video, I want to talk about this one single term, which is dopamine. And so right now, I am quite interested in this thing, and I feel like this one hormone is the actual game in today's world. So let me tell you a story about this, okay? It was a week ago, kind of a week ago, and it was 5 a.m. in the morning. At that time, most people would be like very motivated, especially because it was morning. They were just waking up, and for most people, it should be motivated, right? They should be motivated. And but it was different for me at that time. I was feeling unmotivated. And I was wondering why did I wasn't really motivated at this hour. And you see, I was quite a productivity nerd. Not so much, but kind of. And I knew it was because of this one hormone, which is dopamine. And I and I because I had this one hypothesis about, okay, this is because of dopamine. I lack of dopamine in here. So I reached out to this one guy in YouTube, and because I knew he's very famous of neuroscientist stuff, and this guy is Andrew Huberman. He's a Stanford professor in neuroscientist stuff. And yes, one of his most viral video is about dopamine. And so I listened to this podcast of him in with my with my MP4 player, and I listened to him while I was walking around my neighborhood. And so I listened to his podcast. He explained about this dopamine really very detailed, I guess, like into its literal detail, like how does it work in neural in the brain. And there is one thing that made me feel, that caught my attention at that time. He mentioned about this idea about what is dopamine. So he he explains that dopamine is like to seek something, a hormone to seek something. And he gave like anecdote, or like makes me to imagine ourselves. Like, imagine we were in hunting and gathering era, and we wake up in the morning in the cave, and we realize that there's no food and we are hungry. And what would we do? What will we do? Of course, we will seek food, and we will have the motivation to seek that food. And so we go outside feeling motivated to seek that food because we are hungry. And while we are searching for food, we see this tree, that a mango tree, let's for example. And because we see this mango tree, we will feel this anticipation about that. When we see that, we expect ourselves to receive this food, okay? And so we reach out to that tree, only to realize that the mango in that tree is already we cannot eat the mango through tree. How do I say it? It is busuk actually, already decayed. Like the mango already decayed. And at that time, we will feel these points, but because of that unpredictability that we cannot really make sure we will get the mango or not, we will feel motivated again to seek another food, to seek another mango tree. And this was so fascinating. This idea was so fascinating to me because it turns out the how we can play out dopamine is through unpredictability. If we knew that the mango tree would always produce a mango, we will not have the dopamine hormone again, because all right, we know this. We don't have that anticipation again, and we don't seek anymore, but rather we just harvest it because we already know the mango is there. And there's no fun when we already know what will be there. And currently, that idea of unpredictability makes me realize some what was happening, like what does it mean by fun. So let's say we interact with human. Now, what makes interacting with human fun? Simply because we cannot predict what the human's reaction, right? And that is one thing. This is why interacting with human kind of fun, kind of you can have dopamine hormone. Your dopamine hormone could be produced when you interact with human, because human basically unpredictable. And one idea about unpredictability is when so you see, I'm also interested to be a storyteller, one and I learned that a great story is an emotional roller coaster story, okay? And with that, we knew when it becomes a roller coaster of emotion, it means that it becomes unpredictable. And again, that's what make a story fun to hear. And how is this idea about dopamine makes me feel like this is the most important thing, like not the most important, but an important thing in today's world, because everything in this world is so stimulating with dopamine. I mean, your social media, especially about phone. So dopamine is so abundant right now. And I mean, the food that we are eating, there are so many sugars there. And yeah, everything in today's world is like producing a lot of dopamine, especially social media again, okay? And knowing how this dopamine work will give me an advantage on how to navigate in this world. And one thing that I I tried to learn about more about this dopamine is through a book called Dopamination by Dr. Anna Lemke, and I learned so many stuff from that book. Actually, after I think about it, yeah, I kind of already know so many things about about the information in that book. So it was just that book was kind of like validating my idea. For example, there is this chapter called self-binding, and basically you restrict yourself from having a dopamine source like phone, for example. And I already did that. I do this my phone lock method. I deal what is it? I kind of forget. And by basically locking my phone in a bag and then put the key away somewhere else. So I will be so reluctant to use my phone because of that. So most of them like radical honesty, I already know that, and pro-social shame, it is basically an accountability partner game. So most of them, but and there is this one framework that I think was interesting. So there's this pain and pleasure balance. So we cannot have pleasure without pain afterward. Like imagine yourself. So this happened a lot to me when I use social media for 3 hours straight. Afterward, I would feel mad because, man, why did I do this? I feel guilty, feel bad. Like I want to blame everyone why they didn't stop me, and I felt painful. So you see, when I use social media, I feel pleasure, but afterward I feel painful by having this guilty feeling, feeling bad feeling, and or whatever. And so is when you had a lot of pain and you suddenly stop that pain, you will feel pleasure. Like when I was standing in a train for a very long time, and suddenly I have this bench to sit on, and I can sit on that bench. I immediately will feel pleasure afterwards. So we can have pain and we can have pleasure afterward. And this kind of remind me of today's event. So I was in a certain government institution, and I was I wait a long time because of miscommunication. Afterward, I kind of feel mad, like why did they do this to me? And I throw out I what what I what just happened what I had in mind to the government officials, and they would also try to defend themselves. Oh, I thought this is, and yeah, and so on and so forth. So kind of a bit of mad at that time. And afterward, after I had this angry feeling, I felt bad, and I tried to rethink about this pain and pleasure balance framework from Dr. Anna Lemke, and I was feeling like to dispute this framework. I mean, I am in pain, so why did I have more pain? However, after I think about it more, being angry means we have pleasure at the moment because we will we can let out what we have in mind in a way that makes us feel great, and because we feel pleasure, so being angry is letting out your feeling and your bottled feeling, and you feel good when you let out your feeling in angry way, and of course after you feel good you'll feel bad afterward. So this is the pain and pleasure framework is very interesting, to be honest. and and about dopamine, I think when it comes to religion stuff, it is of course related to desire, to nafsu, and that is how shaitan play out our and that is how Shaitan makes us do sins. But I I feel like I don't know, I feel like I've studied religion about desire a lot, but they basically just saying, hey man, don't fall into the temptation. Yeah, simple. But of course that is not really helpful. Just know what to do doesn't mean know how to do it. And because now I'm trying to learn about how dopamine works, I want to engineer it so I can use it to my advantage. And one way to engineer it is, okay, so you see, one thing that I found interesting in Andrew Huberman podcast at that time is the idea of gambling. So again, dopamine plays out unpredictability. And gambling is basically unpredictability. And people got addicted with gambling. So for now, I have this hypothesis that gambling is actually the strongest addiction. Because for another addiction, like say drugs, you need more doses over time as time goes on. But for yeah, any other addiction, you need more stimulus. You need more doses to have that addiction goes up. But for gambling, I'm not sure whether we need higher doses to get addicted to gambling. And because of that, Andrew also gave me tips to use this gambling mechanism to our advantage by doing the random intermittent reward timing. You basically you basically flip a coin to to give to randomize the reward. For example, let's say I want to brush my teeth. Beforehand, I always thought to myself that after I brush my teeth, I can listen to a podcast from my MP4 player. But after a while, I feel like there is no motivation anymore. Brushing my teeth and listen to podcasts kind of feel like no motivation anymore. But now, after I incorporate the flip coin method, the random intermittent reward timing, I flip a coin first, and if it shows head after I brush my teeth, yes, I can listen to a podcast. But if it shows tail, I cannot listen to a podcast. And this sounds ridiculous, but it actually quite fun to do. It actually makes the thing more fun. And I always have this gambler fallacy, This one is crazy. Gambler fallacy is real. So there was this time when there were like 5 strikes of head. And I always thought to no, 4 strikes of head. And I thought to myself, man, there is no way next one will be head. And boom, it becomes head. And I was like, what the hell is happening? How can this happen? But that is random. You cannot expect what. There's no way you can know the next one is tail or head. It's always 50% chance. Let's kind of 50% chance. And that one is interesting. Oh yeah, again, and I actually abuse this RIRT method to the point where after I did it several times, I still have no motivation at all. And that's one was interesting to me. Why did I have no motivation too after I did all this R I R T, and I tried to find the answer for this, and I found a promising solution for that one by having this brilliance boredom coins by Ali Abdal. So this brilliance boredom is basically just do nothing for several minutes, and with that we can reset our brain, so we will have this great state again in our mind. This is very interesting. This boredom is actually also interesting way to make us more productive. And afterward, yeah. So and there are two books that I am currently interested in dopamine topics, and these two books were recommended by Andrew Huberman. First one is Dopamination, and I have read it. Second one is Molecule of More. And Molecule of More is also interesting, to be honest. But I have yet to read all of it, so I cannot give you like the contrast between Dopamination and Molecule of More. For Dopamination, it is definitely for addicted people. But for Molecule of More, I don't know, it's literally explained how dopamine works. And it's also mentioned about unpredictability and why we cannot use dopamine more often and so on and so forth. So again, to conclude this episode, I just want to remind myself and everyone else, if it benefits you, that dopamine is one idea that we need to understand how it works and how it can benefit us, because everything in this world is dopamine stimulated. And if I can use it to my advantage, I feel like I can be my ideal self. Yeah, I can be my ideal self. I think I need to master it. I think that is all for today podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.